I think all of the uncertainty that people had been having about the presidential race, they should probably take about 80% of it and transfer it over to the US Senate, because right now, this presidential race isn't competitive. Right now, it's about, not only is Joe Biden basically 9, 10 points ahead nationally in the quality polls, but he's ahead by a pretty good margins in enough places to guarantee 278 electoral votes. He starts off with the 232 that Hillary Clinton won, 20 states, you need 270 electoral votes. Hillary Clinton won 20 states plus the District of Columbia that have 232 electoral votes. That's 38 short of the 270 you need. Biden has those locked up. Then there are the 3 states that Hillary Clinton lost by 0.8 of 1 percentage point or less. Michigan, that was 0.2 of a percentage point, and Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, that were 7/8 of a percentage point. Keep in mind, the 3 of them, it was fewer than 78,000 votes out of 137 million nationwide. Biden is ahead and very consistently by 5 to 9 points in each of those 3. So in other words, he doesn't need Arizona, Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Iowa, Ohio, Texas. He doesn't need those. I mean, sure, he's going after them, but he doesn't need them. And that I think, and that Biden is also ahead, but by smaller margins in the other 3 of sort of the big 6, Arizona, Florida, North Carolina. Biden has a smaller lead in those and is more or less dead even in Georgia, Iowa, Ohio, and just a little bit behind, couple points in Texas. So right now, if I had to basically put it down, I would say there's still a 20% chance that President Trump wins the Electoral College. Now, and 20%. And that 20% includes black swans, every one of Don Rumsfeld's unknown unknowns and known unknowns, and Chinese naval vessels ramming U.S. I mean, everything you could stuff in gets it to 20. And then 40% chance of what I would call a skinny Biden win. That is, Biden holds all of Hillary's states and just wins the 3 that she lost by 0.8 of a point or less. Keep in mind, President Trump is running about 6 points below what he did last time. I mean, let's just say 4 to 8 points below wherever he was almost everywhere. And given that he had threaded that needle last time, this looks pretty tough for him. So a 40% chance of a skinny Biden, just the first 20, and Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, maybe one more state. And then a 40% chance that Biden spills over, starts getting the Arizonas, the Floridas, the North Carolinas, Georgias, Iowas, Ohio, starts getting some of those and rolls up a big electoral college victory. I'm sure the reason I was referring to the Senate is that the House is going to be Democratic no matter what. And the presidential race, I don't know Republican pollsters or campaign consultants that still think the president has a chance. And I'll come back to that in just a second. But right now the fight is, can Republicans keep their Senate losses to 1 or 2 so that they've got 51, 52 seats in the Senate? And that's looking increasingly doubtful. Can Democrats get to 50, 51, maybe 52? Can Democrats get there? Or does this start getting worse for Republicans, where Democrats start picking up 53 to 57 or 58 seats, which can happen when you've got 12 Republican seats that are either behind, even, or maybe with 1 or 2 point leads? 12. There's one Democratic seat that's gone. There's another one that's probably 8 or 10 ahead. So, or 7 or 8 ahead. So we're looking at the possibility of this thing blowing big for Democrats in the Senate. So the real question is, number one, can Republicans hold their majority in the House, or can they keep it low enough where there is like one centrist Democrat in the Senate, and that's Joe Manchin from West Virginia. There are 2 or 3, 4 more sort of fairly moderate. If Democrats get a majority in the Senate and it's only one seat, 2, something like that, 3, then the moderates, the centrists, have a lot of leverage. But to the extent that this starts getting bigger than that, and that is looking increasingly possible, probable, then the leverage that the moderates would have, particularly if they get rid of the filibuster, would be gone. And so this thing right now, the legal fights, all that, we may still have them, but they're likely to be in Senate races, not House. The kind of wave elections that we've seen in the past that are usually midterms. You may remember 2006, George W. Bush's second midterm election when the war in Iraq was going badly. You may remember the 2 Obama midterms in 2010 and 2014 that were catastrophic. 2018 for Republicans in the House when they lost 40 seats and their majority in the House of Representatives. Those were wave elections. We've only had 2 wave elections in presidential years in my lifetime. And one in 1964, Lyndon Johnson, Barry Goldwater, and I was 11 and not paying attention. And the second time was 1980, the Reagan Clinton. But when you have these wave elections, incumbency means less, money means less. People are just voting red or they're voting blue and not discriminating a whole lot up and down the line. And that's where we are right now. And I mean, I have a vivid memory of election night 1980, where the first Democrats lost their first U.S. Senate seat when the polls closed in Indiana at 6:30 p.m. Democrats lost another Senate seat every 30 minutes for the next 6 consecutive hours. That's what can happen in these kind of wave elections. And it looks like the president was on. He had always been really more vulnerable than a lot of people appreciated. When you average only a 38% Gallup job approval rating for your first year in office, 38, and only 40% in your second year, and only 42% in your third year, and average only 41% year to date. If you've never gone above 49 in a Gallup poll, if you've never gone above 48 in a Fox News poll, if you've never gone above 47 in an NBC Wall Street Journal poll, you do not have good prospects for re-election. And he was on thin ice going into the coronavirus pandemic. And then, as he said all kinds of unusual things and weird things and started testing the patience and the confidence of the American people. And as our tolls got up, and you all know the number, 5% of the US has 5% of the population and 20% of the world's coronavirus deaths. His credibility started diminishing last spring. You started seeing his job approval rating decline in April. You started seeing Biden's lead go from 4 to 6 points where it had been to 8 to 10 to 12 midsummer. It narrowed down to 8. And then with the debate, boom, trap door, goes through the ice. So right now, Republicans saw a lot of Republican candidates, like almost everywhere, dropped like 3 points immediately after that debate. So that was, and one last thing about polls, and I know a lot of people are saying, well, why does this guy talk about polls? The polls were all wrong. No poll told you that Hillary Clinton was going to win the Electoral College. I mean, that's how we decide elections, is Electoral College. Not one. Because that's not what national polls do. They measure the national popular vote. And if you woke up on election day in 2016, the Real Clear Politics average would have shown Hillary Clinton with 47% and Donald Trump at 44%, 47, 44. And what happened in that election when the last vote was counted? Hillary Clinton has 48 and Donald Trump has 46. Now, the difference between 3 points and 2 points isn't a whole lot. Where the mistake was made was the interpretation, is that we had had close races for a long time. And the only inversions with the popular vote, electoral college vote going different ways, 1876, 1888, then 112 years, 2000. But with Bush Gore, yes, Gore won the popular vote by half a percentage point. And George Bush won the electoral college vote by 537 votes in Florida. And so it was only it was viewed as like a statistical fluke. It wasn't. And then in 2004, we had another close race, but where the popular electoral go the same way. It wasn't until 2016 that it became clear that because Democrats were running up the score, winning California, Hillary won California by a 4.3 million vote margin. New York State, 1.7 million. Illinois, 950,000 votes. So that Democrats were wasting votes there, while Republican votes were sort of more efficiently allocated around the country. And hence, that relationship between the electoral college vote and the popular vote now isn't quite as strong. And so a Democrat needs to be ahead by maybe 3 or 4 percentage points until, before they can be reasonably sure that they're probably going to win the electoral college. But we're looking at this state by state very, very, very closely. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the Senate is where the action is, because if Republicans lose the Senate, then you've got one party government entirely. And that's a big deal. If you have divided government, that's a different situation. Mm-hmm. That's what's in between right now. Are you going to have unified democratic government, or will we have divided government? And that's going to be decided in the Senate, not so much the presidential.